Hi, everybody. It's Elektra Yao, immigration attorney, artist visa lawyer, and entertainment lawyer. And today I wanted to continue with our discussion on contracts. I know for 2 days we were talking about green cards based on extraordinary ability, but I want to switch back to contracts. And I want to talk today specifically about employment agreements, but with a focus on morality clauses. And I want you guys to not think like, oh, Electra, I'm a moral person. This is really not about you. This is about the bottom line. This is about your brand. This is about the company's brand. And this is about making sure that the values of the company that you're being hired for or the record label or whatever are aligned. Because if they are not aligned, there are consequences for the company in terms of the money that they need to spend to fix the issue, and in terms of you and the brand alignment. So your business dealings, your business relationships. So the morality clause, I mean, this is a standard clause included in all types of employment agreements, specifically for artists and creative professionals, because the company really wants to make sure that they're protecting their brand, they're protecting their image, that the company's values are upheld. And if you are to should you violate that morality clause, then that is grounds for usually immediate termination. So it's a pretty serious clause, and there's certain, and the what is immoral can be considered a lot of different things. It can be considered from breaking the law, right? So breaking the law to, for example, exhibiting a certain viewpoint or a certain way of thinking. If that way of thinking is not in line with the values of the company that's hiring you, then you're violating that morality clause. And it's a pretty strict clause. And it's a very difficult clause as well, because there's no real bargaining power. It's really hard to get that clause eliminated because it is fully in the interest of the company that's going to be hiring you. So you have to be very, very careful about who you choose to align yourself with, because you really need to absolutely make sure that your values are in sync, the brands are in sync, because should you violate that clause, you'll be losing money. The company will be losing money because they're going to have to spend money to fix the error, and you're not going to continue those professional relationships. So it's a very standard clause. Unfortunately, there's very little room to negotiate that. And you really need to work with an attorney that is able to craft language that will protect you. And what does that mean? That means including language that is very, very, very specific, so that should you do something that is not within that enumerated list of immoral behavior, you are still protected. So in order to do this, you really need to work closely with an attorney that understands your value, that understands your brand, that understands and pushes for you to have bargaining power, and that also understands the company's brand. So it's very, very important for that morality clause to be very tightly drafted. Everything that is considered immoral should be enumerated in that clause. That way, if there's anything outside of that list that you do that the company does have issue with, then that can go then possibly you won't need to go into litigation. You won't need to move forward with the termination of that employment. So it's a very tricky clause because you have to define something that is a little bit abstract, like morals, but it also gives the opportunity for you and the attorney to really work together and understand what you would consider immoral and what would the company consider immoral as well. So it gives you a little bit of room to protect yourself by being very, very specific about the language that's being used. It also gives you an opportunity to really understand your brand, really understand where you want to go, and really understand if that company is right for you. Because again, if you violate that clause, usually in most contracts, that's grounds for immediate termination. So I want you guys to think about what could potentially be immoral if you are presented with an employment contract. And I want you guys to really work with specific language, or work with an attorney that will include specific language so that you do not violate the terms of your agreement. And these contracts are usually in the context of production companies, record companies. So those types of artists will see these types of clauses in these contracts. So again, It's not about you being immoral as a person. It's about the company protecting itself. Usually the artist has very little bargaining power. This is why you need to work with an attorney that will use very specific language to protect you, to enumerate what is immoral, so that anything that you do outside of that will not be a violation of the terms of that contract. So again, this is not about you being immoral. This is about you defining what is immoral, using specific language and enumerating that language so that you can protect yourself. Should you do something outside of the bounds of that language, it will not rise to the level of being a violation, and you can continue your business dealings and your relationship with that company. So I hope that this discussion on morality clauses was helpful for you. This is, again, a way for you to really position yourself and align yourself with understanding who you are and what you are as a brand, so that once you are confronted with these types of agreements, you have more bargaining power to really define what is immoral for your brand, to give yourself more protection. I will see you later today, and we will talk about creative career advice so that you are in a position to get this sort of employment contract, and so that you can negotiate your rights. But you need to get to that point before you can actually start negotiating. So I will see you later today. Bye, everybody.